We go all the way out to Vancouver. We bring in our old pal, Ray Ferraro. He joins us on the MSG 150 Speed Dial, presented by Fios by Verizon. Ray, it's great to have you on the show. Do you think there's going to be a lot of action come July 1st in terms of big names changing places?
I don't know if the big names are going to change place, but what has happened over the last, I guess it's 3 years, is there's this courting period, the week that we're in now. And so teams are able to get a jump start, talk to guys that they might be interested in. Joe Pavelski from San Jose is flying around, talking to different teams. Maybe the most notable one is Matt Duchene, who was in Nashville, is going to be in Montreal, and he too will talk to a half a dozen clubs as well. So by the time July 1st rolls around, I think people have a general sense of where the big boys go. But as we've seen, once the big boys go, the action happens when players start to sign from team to team. Now, is there going to be enough money? Is there going to be cap room for teams to go ahead and make the moves that they want to? I don't know that that's the case. Both the players in the league, I think, were somewhat surprised with when they came up with the salary cap for next year, that it wasn't going to be as high as they thought it was. Well, that's going to crimp a little bit of team spending as they get into July 1st. But there'll be 50 to 70 players that will move around for sure.
And, Ray, you see when teams start making moves to open up space, it's obvious what they're trying to do. And one of them was Nashville making that trade with PK Subban to the Devils. And they've been linked with Duchene, as you mentioned, him being in Nashville. And does that seem like, as we know, we don't know who's going where, but when you think about fit and natural fit, would you say Duchene in Nashville is a natural fit?
I think it's a real good fit. Now, Nashville has some cap issues, and I guess like almost everybody really, but that preceded the trade to PK Subban to the Devils. They've also got a centerman in Kyle Turris who had just a rotten year last year. He's a good player, but he ran into some injury problems. The year kind of got away from him. He's got 5 years at $6 million left on his contract. If you bring in Duchene at close to $10 million, you've already got Ryan Johansson at $8 million plus. How much money can you have tied up in the middle of the ice? And so if they're able to sign Duchene, does that open up a trade of Kyle Turris somewhere else? But Duchene to Nashville would seem like a fit to a team that lost their way a little bit. 2 years ago, we talked about Nashville as one of the best teams in the league. Mm-hmm. And, they get bumped out early last year. There seems to be some warts on them a little bit, and they're trying to recalibrate their team as they don't want to lose that window of winning.
Ray, if you were a GM, would you sign Artemi Panarin for $11 million a year over 7 years or whatever the terms are going to be in that neighborhood? Would you make that kind of move if you were running a team?
You know what, Bill? $11 million for almost anybody sounds absurd. I can't quite get my head around it. And I think we have to take it in the context of the cap is about $81.5 million. So now you're going to commit $11 million to one player. And that really becomes the issue for these teams. Before I get to whether I'd sign Panarin, you look at the issues that are going on in Toronto. They've got Tavares at $11 million. They've got Matthews at $11 million. They're going to have Marner, by the time they get him signed, likely will be in the $10 million range. You've got $32 million on three forwards. Like, what's the rest of your team look like? It's got to fit under $81 million. I love Panarin. He's going to get 7 years. I think that's indisputable. $11 million seems high for me. But if it's in Florida, Florida also has the benefit of the lower to no state income tax. They can offer him money that gives them freedom on the salary cap that other teams just can't get to because of the way the tax rules are state to state.
That's something that I think a lot of leagues have to look at, both the winter leagues, NBA and NHL as well. But when you mention Marner and you mention value, we could talk about salary. But for another team to sign him, am I right? Like, it's 4 first-round picks you'd have to give up. Speaking of value, if you're another team that's interested in Mitch Marner, is that worth doing?
For me, it is, only in that if you sign Mitch Marner, I would assume you're a pretty good team. If you're a pretty good team, you would hope that Marner would push you to a point that gives you a chance to win, or at least a chance to be very competitive. So that would push your draft pick into the last 10 in the first round.
Yeah.
Most years, if you get between 20 and 40, those players in the draft are pretty interchangeable. They all have rather similar skill sets. Some guys are faster or score more, or whatever you might have, but they're all pretty much in the same pot. And so I think teams are willing to take that risk. Marner's a fantastic player. I do a lot of Toronto games during the year. He's dynamic. He's creative. Helped John Tavares to his career best 46 goals this past year. I think Marner is one of those players that would be worth it. I also think Sebastian Aho and Mikko Rantanen, a couple other restricted free agents, would be worth it as well. Braden Point in Tampa Bay. And then you get into a defenseman like Ivan Provorov from Philadelphia. These are all terrific players, and they're 21 years old. It's not like you're signing a 28-year-old free agent.
Ray, in your work for TSN, you've seen a lot of Kaapo Kakko. Where do you think he's going to fit, and can a Ranger fan expect him to make an immediate contribution next year?
Kaapo Kakko is a fantastic young player. He is big, he's powerful, he's got terrific hands, he's creative. I watched him 7 times at the World Junior Tournament in Vancouver this past Christmas and New Year's, and then another 10 times at the World Championships this past year in Slovakia. I can't think of anything I don't like about him. He's got energy. He's got personality as far as how the people will connect to him. Kakko is a top 2-line player. I would be shocked if he's not at 20 goals this year. And I mentioned to Jeff Gorton, the Rangers GM at the World Championships, I said, you must love where you're sitting in the draft. And he's like, how about that? You just sit there, and whoever New Jersey doesn't take, you get the next guy. New Jersey's got a fantastic player and a terrific kid in Jack Hughes. And the Rangers have hit I don't know if it's a grand slam. It's a 3-run homer anyway with Kaapo Kakko. I mean, he's a fantastic foundational core piece that the Rangers lucked into in the lottery.
Yeah, it's going to also be interesting how it wakes up maybe the rivalry here in New York area. Mentioning New York area on the Islanders front, is Anders Lee going to have to wait and see what maybe the Islanders want to do in other free agency before he gets paid, or is it serious with maybe interest from Chicago that he could be the next captain to leave here?
I don't think Anders Lee is going to have to wait unless he chooses to wait. I would think this courting period for Lee would be very busy. He and his agent, Neil Sheehy, will talk to a number of teams, and there's going to be a fit for Anders Lee there. Now, one of the problems you have is you try to get information about where Lee might be is you're trying to get information from Lou Lamoriello. Mm-hmm. If you ask Lou today if it's Thursday, he might not tell you, right? Like it's not coming from him.
It's true.
And so who knows? Are they close in the island? I know term is an issue that both the Islanders and Anders Lee and his camp feel differently about. I think the salary's probably doable. It's the term whether. So, for example, if the Islanders feel 5 years is the term they want to, draw the line on, if somebody else is offering 7, is Lee willing to leave what he knows best, leave what he's only known to go somewhere else? Well, if it's $7 million and it's 2 more years, it's $14 million. It comes down to math sometimes.
Ray, you've always been good at math. We know that.
Not good enough, Billy.
You, of course, were a one-time Ranger. You also had a nice run with the Islanders. Look at all of the guys that are still in the game from those that played with you on the 93 Islander team, right? A lot of guys still in the game.
Yeah, really kind of remarkable when you get into a certain point and you look around and, even going back to Hartford, Bill, like a whole bunch of guys there got into the coaching game. Joel Quenneville, Dave Tippett, Steve Weeks was a coach, Dean Evison was a coach, Ron Francis was a general manager. It kind of was a hothouse for guys that stayed in the game. Then you go to the Islanders of 93, and Glenn Healy's running the NHL Players Association, the alumni division, doing an amazing job for this group of players, our age and older, that some of them have fallen on hard times, and Glenn's done a fantastic job. Tom Fitzgerald is an assistant general manager. Tom Curvers is an assistant general manager, and Claude Loisel's been a manager in several teams. And so you look around and you're like, man, we were just a bunch of guys playing. And now you get older and you get into a position where you want to stay in the game. Guys have chased various career paths, and it's kind of fun to wander into a building sometimes and you run into an an old teammate doing something that is far different than chasing the puck around.
You know what? Just a bunch of guys that had a hell of a run in '93, an unforgettable run that was. And by the way, those Whalers jerseys, still top 5 best jerseys in NHL history.
That was such a creative jersey. I'll tell you how great it was. So if you look at the whale tail and the Hartford that was inside of it, the H.
The H, right?
When we played in the American League, our team was in Binghamton. And so they just turned the emblem on its side, and it's a B.
That's right.
And so we said we were a quarter turn from the NHL.
There you go.
You just flip that B to
That's
a
right.
W or the B to the H, and you're in.
But
And
also,
That's great.
also the coach at the NHL level probably told you you're a quarter turn from going back to the A. So
yeah, he told you guys got a lot of work. I'll tell you that. He said.
Right, great to have you on, man. It is so great to talk to you.
Awesome, great to see you, Billy. I hope L4, L5 is all good for you.
The back is stable. The back is stable. I hope your cruciate stable with that knee,
my
too, that
goodness.
ACL.
Cruciate's all fixed, all fixed, ready to go.
Ray, you're the man. Thanks so much. For more great videos from the MSG 150, check out right there. And remember, our show is on Monday through Thursday, 8 to 10:30 p.m. on MSG Network and MSG Go.